Good evening, everybody, and welcome to SVTV. Tonight we are on live with the board of Scottish Volleyball. They're following on in our series of Meet Our Commissions. They're coming behind our final commission, which was the Special Events Commission that we delivered on a Tuesday evening. So hot on the heels is the board. So they're sitting backstage at the moment. What we want you guys to do is, if you're watching us live, if you've got questions for the board, get them put into the comments, and we'll hopefully get around to answering them. And if you are watching live, I hope you enjoy tonight's show. So the guys and the ladies and gents of the Scottish Volleyball Board are sitting backstage with Blair, and let's just have them out. Let's get this conversation started. I'm really excited for it. So everybody, here we are, the board.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening. Good evening, Scottish Volleyball Boards.
Good evening.
Evening.
Hello. Everybody's made it. So welcome to SVTV. For the new people, it's a SVTV debut. Sandy, you are a returning veteran of SVTV.
Yep,
welcome
I am. Like the yeah.
You enjoyed it so much the first time you signed up straight away for a second stint.
I couldn't wait, and you bribed me enough anyway, so I came back.
Fantastic. Well, listen, hopefully we've got a fabulous broadcast. We've got it scheduled for about an hour, and we usually do this with all our broadcasts. We warn you that we get to about an hour, and I'll give you the nod. And if we're in a good flow and we're in a good place, I might ask if you're willing to stay on a little bit longer. If you have to drop off, that's no problem. If you've got other commitments or childcare, or you've just had enough, then let me know. But hopefully we've got a nice, easy evening of relaxed conversation, and we get to find out a little bit about this key role that you guys play in Scottish volleyball. So let's just kick things off with Scott Borthwick. You are our president and as it said on the graphic, on the interim basis. We'll come back to that a wee bit later. But Scott, can you just tell us what your role is on the board and how long you've been on?
Yes, I was introduced onto the board by Jim Berryman back in, I believe it was 2009. He was vice president at that time, and he was interested in getting some more professional qualified people on the board. So he asked me. I was working as a lawyer at that time. I no longer practice law, but I'm still qualified. You can't unqualify as a lawyer. So I was brought on as legal director, and that is pretty much the role that I fulfilled for quite some time, about 6 or 7 years probably, as legal director and company secretary. And then we've been through a couple of presidents in that time. And when I think it was Mel left to become the national team coach, Margaret Ann asked me if I would step up to become the chairman of the board, which also comes with the responsibilities of president. And I took that on, yes, under the agreement that it would be on an interim basis. Because I'm not a volleyball person, I don't. Although I played volleyball when I was younger, I always felt that, particularly the president, it should be a role that people can aspire to, somebody that they can look up to, a role model within the sport, somebody who's really achieved a huge amount in the sport. I only ever really played at high school. So, yes, that's why I am the interim president. I remain the interim president until such times we find somebody with the correct gravitas to take on that role.
Well, I think what you've done there, Scott, is you've preempted a question from the chair of the Special Events Commission, Adam Payton. He asked, are you still interim president? So you've explained that very well, and we've kicked off one of the questions that has come later on. So a fantastic introduction from yourself. Let's go and pick straight on Jean Bruce. Jean, welcome to SVTV. Can you tell us about your role on the board, please?
So I've been on the board for about 2.5 years as HR director. I was my day role is a clinical nurse manager at NHS Lothian, and I was doing employment law at the time when the post was advertised. So my role is mainly about the governance of making sure that the organisation works to the correct employment legislation. I also realised probably at that time I'm getting a bit long in the tooth. I've been playing volleyball a long, long time. And this was a way to still keep in touch with the organisation and just still be involved.
It's not time to hang up those knee pads yet, Jean. There's ways and means of keeping you involved in the sport. That's fantastic. Again, as Scott alluded to earlier, that professional role that you're bringing to the board, which is a fantastic skill set to have. Now we're going to come to Ian. Ian, can you please tell us your role on the board?
This is the time that everyone should actually fall asleep, because it's probably the most exciting subject in the world. For my sins, I'm the finance director. And if Margaret Ann remembers a conversation in Costa, in Haddington, God knows how many years ago, whatever, and persuaded me on the back of my daughter suggesting me, was that correct, Margaret Ann?
Yeah, keep going.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, okay.
Carry on.
My role actually, when I was in Haddington, I was a money advisor at Citizen Advice, having been 40 years in the bank. So finance side, I maybe know what a balance sheet looks like, and you know, I must admit, I maybe shouldn't say in this forum, but I thoroughly enjoyed the role that I've been doing, and the camaraderie we've had with the rest of the guys, whatever. I mean, my role, as I say, is I won't go into big details, but really, basically, anything finance, I look at it from balance sheets to you know, any financial matters. I've written things down because I'm at an age that I have to write things down. Unlike, I mean, the rest of you, Sandy, I won't be surprised if you write from that. Basically, you know, from the solvency, responsibility of the solvency of the association to safeguarding assets, that kind of thing. And with Margaret Ann and the finance director, Aileen, I report to the board on anything that requires financial input. So that's my background. Oh, then one of the important points, I'm totally, did I say, naked from actually involved in volleyball. At least Scott has played volleyball. I have learnt volleyball over the years, having watched my daughter, but actually playing it, no, I'm sorry. But, you know, I'm learning as years go on, whatever. Thanks,
we never say never, Ian. We never say never. No. There's always an avenue for you to get involved. So we'll keep that one. I'll keep that door open for you right now. Sandy, thanks for joining us again. We know that you are the chair and president of the Referees Commission. Just a little bit about your involvement with the board, please.
All right. Okay. People keep saying how old I am. I look back in the days before we had a board, we had a thing called an executive, and I was actually a member of the executive way back in about 1974. So I've been around a while. You're quite right. I function as one of the board directors in technical matters. So I report to the board what is decided or discussed at the chairs of commission meetings. And I am also the person who reports to the board in matters of child protection and in the SVA's drug policy, which corresponds with the WADA policy as well. So all those sort of things, technical matters, I report to the board on. So that's where I come from. And and they make really good sausage rolls, I have to say. And that's one of the reasons why I keep coming back.
I mean, fed at the Referees Commission, fed at the board. I mean, you're definitely selling it to people who like food, Sandy.
Absolutely. You know, it's one of these things. I mean, Ian referred to it as a camaraderie, and it's true. In all of the various commissions that we have, and I'll just speak on their behalf, I hope. they all get on really well, and it's actually fun to be with people who actually have the same interest as you. So this is a salesman act that I'm doing just now, but it's actually genuine. You know, that we all get on well, we all believe in the same things, we all go in the same direction, and we all think as one. And I think that's probably true. So so we have the association's best interest at heart.
Fantastic. Keith, good evening and welcome.
Good evening.
You are our
We can hear
newest member, I believe, on the board. So introduce yourself to the people and
Yes.
your role, please.
I'm board member, baby. But actually, I've been part of the board for a year and a half, about a year and 9 months. Having worked in a level above the SVA office at the Pleasance, if you've had the wonder of visiting, Margaret Ann caught me on the way home, I believe, and said, "You know what? You need to join the board." And I've never looked back. Honestly, it's such a fantastic bunch, and within 1 or 2 meetings, I was hooked. I advise, I use that very lightly, in marketing and a bit of communication. I have spent the last 7 years working in that area, and give guidance when I can, and enjoy a game of volleyball. It's not my sport, but I've thoroughly enjoyed a couple of games when taken to the court. Led by hand.
Yes, well done.
Dragged. You were dragged on, if I remember rightly.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Keith, for that little intro. I'm doing that. And finally, Margaret Ann, long time no see. How are you?
Oh, I know, Andrew. You must be missing me by now, I'm sure.
Oh, it's a great day. So, can you tell everybody, in case they've been living on a different planet, what your role is in your normal day-to-day, and then how you fit in and function with the board?
I want to
Yeah.
hear this.
Do you? Are you going to take a bit of interest here, Ian? Okay, I'm Margaret Ann Fleming. My paid current position is Chief Executive of Scottish Volleyball. I've been involved with Scottish Volleyball Board for the best part of 15 years now. Previous to my employment as Chief Executive, I was a President of the Board. And prior to that, I remember the executive group, Sandy. I also sat in that previously to the board. And since my involvement, there's been considerable change in the structure and the strategy of the board, and the vision's always been the same. Whoever's been in charge at this level always looks to do the best that they can do for Scottish volleyball and make sure that what we do reflects what members need. But we've had quite a bit of structural change over the years, where we went from a 32 executive board to a 7-member board. And there's been a lot going on there. There's, as Scott alluded to earlier, there's been some changeover, but actually longevity is something that's really admired on this board, especially by the chief executive. And everyone sitting here has really paid their dues, worked hard, and we've worked together as a real strong team for a long time now.
Amazing. So again, great introduction to everybody. You've given a little bit of some insight into what it is that you do, but you've really scraped the surface. So we're going to try in the next wee while to dig a little bit deeper into those roles, and we're going to come at Scott straight off the bat, because you've said that you're in this interim position. This has been one heck of a year for you to be the president of Scottish Volleyball. COVID-19 has absolutely slammed us, and as our president of the board at this time, you've obviously had to preside over what has been a crazy year. How's that been for you as president, Scott?
Well, it's been very difficult because I think a lot of what we seek, and what Sandy alluded to, you seek some kind of personal connection. Now, for myself, that tends to be at board level. Although I do get invited to a lot of events, I tend, because I have 3 children at home, I tend not to be able to attend very many. But obviously, there's been more or less nothing. There hasn't been any possibility of anything of note to look forward to. And I think it's very difficult. It's very difficult as an organisation, just as a team, in terms of the board, but in terms of the wider organisation yourself, who obviously are on the staff as well. You know, you've probably had it more difficult than us, because you have to actually implement things. There are still tasks that you have to achieve. In terms of the board, we're looking at a wider picture, an overall viewpoint, and there's certain things that we can do at a strategic level, but we're not involved operationally with the organisation. So to an extent, you know, we're a little bit separate from what happens on the ground, and that can be a difficulty, because it is difficult to make that connection, and particularly now, as Sandy's alluded to, enjoying the sausage rolls. We haven't actually had a board meeting in person since, I think, February 2020. These board meetings are all done much like this. They're done via Zoom, and that's the way we have to do things. So you're responsible for your own sausage rolls, Sandy.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, and it's a terrible situation. It's very unfortunate, and I think it's true of most sports, if not all sports. Everybody's in this situation. I guess volleyball is maybe a bit different from the sports you hear about in the news, because the sports you hear about in the news are the ones that probably require less support and have less supporters turning up to watch. You know, to me, it would be relatively easy to play certain matches in volleyball, particularly outdoors, not this time of year, but you would think that there would be options to be able to do things. But unfortunately, we do have to, our hands are tied to a great extent by government guidelines, and we have to stick to that.
Brilliant. I think there's a lot in there from an overall point of view, and I still think that there's a lot more that you guys are doing that you're not alluding to. Jean, I want to come to you. Obviously, first and foremost, NHS worker, we're very grateful for the crazy efforts that you've been putting in to hopefully get us back there. I want to get a wee question for you about the way in which we've responded to the COVID-19 situation in terms of the creation of our documents, obviously from an NHS background. How do you think we've done and handled that?
Oh, it's been fantastic, actually, because I think that you have all worked. I think it's probably worked really well for some of you. The fact that, for example, Andy, you're not having to travel into Edinburgh. The working from home and the flexible working has actually, I think, probably benefited the organisation. And the amount of work that you're seeing coming out, considering we don't have big competitions to organise, the amount of work that's been going on in the background that maybe not all members are aware of has been absolutely phenomenal. I think that so far we've all been very lucky that everyone's had their good health, by working with the guidelines, and I know that it's been really frustrating for the organisation and yourselves that, not to be able, we were set to maybe start in September, then it was like, well, we could maybe do something December, then it's January, and each time the goalposts have been moved, and you guys have had to just adapt and get on with it, which has been great.
Perfect. We obviously worked pretty hard to get those documents out, and hopefully it gets us back going. We've got some questions that are starting to come in. And I'm trying to figure out who we're going to. I think we'll just direct this to everybody, I think. So can we have Andrew Mexon's question up? What does the board think the impact of COVID-19 will have on the sport, and what will it take to get us back on track? Is there a danger that it potentially will lose a generation or more? Difficult question. Who wants to throw their hat in the ring with this one for Andrew Mexon? Marjan, come on. What's your thoughts on that question?
Yeah, of course I'll come in here. No problem at all. Yes, of course, there's a danger that there's a generation. I wouldn't quite say a generation, but there's definitely a time lapse of a year here. I think the perspective for all members is that if this was just happening to Scottish volleyball, then we'd be in crisis. But what's not, it's actually happening to all sport. Don't be fooled when you hear comments sport is back, because it's not. There's 56 governing bodies of sport, and from that there's about 4 that really have the finance to implement a COVID-free bubble sport, as they call it. Everyone else, all your other sports have been effectively furloughed for a year. So a simple answer is we've worked very, very hard as a team. We've kept the staff together. We've kept the governance together, the federation together, and we've got top shelf projects ready and to go. So effectively, yes, there's been a drop in membership. That's inevitable. People don't sign up for things they're not going to have. However, we are really confident that we're in a really strong position, especially through the start of the beach season, which is outdoors. It's more pandemic friendly, shall I say, in relation to sport. And that gives us an edge before other sports. Other big team sports don't have that level of strategy, structure, or competition available to them before they have to go back indoors. So I would be lying if I say I'm not nervous about the fact that we have lost membership, but I feel very, very confident that we'll bounce back even bigger, better and stronger. I wonder, Andrew, how many times I'm going to say that strap line before I go off tonight.
Well, if people are at home watching and they're playing bingo, they've already got one box ticked off. Well done on that front.
I'm trying really hard not to do it too many times.
No, we obviously know that strap line very, very well. It's great that we're able to incorporate some of the strategic documents into the conversation tonight. Ian, I wanted to come to you with this question from Mark Cathro on Instagram. He's asked, and it's a serious question from him, so if it's a financial one, I told you we had it. Mark's question is, what impact has COVID-19 had on Scottish volleyball financially? Big question from Mark Cathro.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it has an impact, absolutely. Yes, we rely on certain funds centrally from Sports Scotland, and we miss the funds from you guys, from subscriptions, etc. But I mean, we are still pretty strong financially. The impact has been good, but not, not to the extent where it's so bad that we are really struggling. It has an impact, but I'm very confident as a finance director that we'll pull through whatever. Provided, Jean, that everyone gets the jab, of course, which is important to old people like me, as I say. But no, seriously, it is a very good question. But we're very much on top. Margaret Ann is very much an alien, are very much aware of the impact it has. But we are very, very confident that we'll see this through.
That's a great message for the members and the viewers and the volleyball community here. We know that you've taken your personal life skills into this role. Is this something that you maybe had a little bit of foresight on and said, right, we may need some funds and stability in the future? Is this something you've maybe had your eye on?
Yeah, yes. I mean, we've been in a strong position before it all started, and I'm not saying we knew that the pandemic was coming along, but it was important. That, and it's always been important for since I've been on the board, and I'm sure it has been many years before me, that without boring you with details, but the capital position, etc., has always been strong, and we do not take chances and going into things that would be very detrimental to the association. So you know, when the pandemic came on in March and whatever, we are very strong, and with the support, as I say, of Sports Scotland, etc., we are confident that, as I say, we'll see this through. And yeah, I mean, with, as I say, going on to the capital position again, the strength of the business was very good in March, and while maybe not as good now, it's still in a strong position.
Brilliant. I mean, obviously, it's another strong message for our members in our volleyball community here. Margaret Ann, I want to just come to you a little bit off of this one. Obviously, Ian's there; he's putting that strong message out. How are you communicating with the board in and around the COVID-19 pandemic, and how are you linking the stuff that we're doing on a day-to-day basis to the members of the board, so that they know exactly what we're doing on a day-to-day basis? And then how does that work, that communication work, now that you're in the whole Zoom world that Scott alluded to?
Yeah, communication between board members has always been exceptionally strong, Andrew. Predominantly, we would communicate by email. That would have been our main modium. We've now gone online, so we have not dropped any of our board engagement, our commission engagement, or our chairs of commission engagement. All of that is still going ahead. It's taken people some time to adjust to this new way of working. I wouldn't say that it's the best way of working for us as individuals, because we do enjoy each other's company. We do like to get together. But in saying that, I do think very strongly that the governance of Scottish volleyball was exceptionally strong and continues to be that way. Picking up on what Ian was saying, I think Ian made some excellent points. For members listening, it's really important to know that over the last, it's important to me, so I'm going to let you know, over the last 8 to 10 years, we've really worked hard at building up our reserves of money in case there was a crisis, a business continuity plan for it that we needed to implement. And although we've not dug deep into our reserves, they are there as this pandemic and this crisis continues on past another 12, 18 months, 2 years. Picking up for what you're saying, Andrew, about what we've been delivering, I think as a staff, as volunteers, commission and board, that we've adapted exceptionally well online, that we've gone, it's a long day for staff. I mean, I'm sure members often say, well, what's Scottish volleyball staff been doing with their time? But actually, it's a long day. All of the admin and all of the development work, it's a new way of working for us also. So, and this month alone, this is our 7th or 8th online evening presentation. Next month, we have another series to do with physical preparation and mental preparation for athletes, players. So they're under pressure. I ask a lot of my team. I challenge them a lot to come up with engagement with members, because the one thing we wanted to do right from the onset was not lose that engagement, not lose that friendship with the people that we see on a weekly and daily basis. So it's been really interesting. You know, It's been a challenge, it's been a crisis, but it's let us do some different things and do some different things better.
Perfect.
Andy, can I say something? On
the
back of I was going to say the modern world now, obviously because of the pandemic and the Zoom calls. You know, when we got back to Sandy's sandwiches, etc., in whatever the situation, the one thing we do, people like maybe Keith, who always turns up at meetings, whatever it is, but he's and lives in Dundee, whatever. So there's no excuse, whatever, now that you can't miss any meetings. Whatever,
I was there even when I moved.
But no, to be fair, I think Ian's making a good point there, Ian. Sorry, that this has allowed us to look at different ways of working going forwards. Mm-hmm. So we've got Sandy coming from. We have almost all of our meetings at the Pleasance in Edinburgh. It's been a long time since we had meetings elsewhere. I know that we briefly had meetings in Glasgow before in the past, but generally speaking, the meetings have always been in Edinburgh. And that is putting a little bit of extra pressure. It's asking that little bit more of those board directors who don't live in Edinburgh and do have to travel quite a considerable distance. And at this point, that's particularly Sandy and Keith. But that's been the case in the past. We've had board directors coming from St Andrews and Bridge of Allen and places like that. It's a long way to come to Edinburgh. So if this allows us the opportunity to say, well, actually, we have the technical ability to do things a different way if we so please. If people want to dial in and they're going to join the meetings virtually, if that works, and that's a more efficient way of working, and it's a way of saving a little bit of money for the organisation as well, then these are things that are worth exploring, I would say.
Margaret Ann, I think you'll have to ask the financial director if we can invest in a big television, of course, whatever, when that time comes, whatever. So we can have us all, not all of us, all the ones that are.
Ian, we're going to get you some virtual. We'll get you some virtual reality goggles. You'll be in the room with us.
That's too modern for me.
All right,
Ian, as finance director, your wish is my command. It will be on the list.
So let me tell you guys, the questions are flooding in, so I'm trying to keep the thread and the conversation flowing the best way. Sandy, I'm going to bring this question to you, and it's from Ali Jack, our men's national team coach. He's basically saying you have a dual role on the chair of the referees commission and as a board member. Do you think there's any plans for the other commissions to maybe have a representation on the board? And that's kind of in the same vein as Scott talking about, can we dial in? So what's your thoughts on that?
Well, to be honest, and I think Margaret Ann will confirm this, and we actually have a place, we have a space on the board for a performance director, and so there is immediately we can fish towards Ali. Say, Ali, do you want to become performance director, or anybody else for that matter? Because we used to have one, and it's a space that we do need to fill. And interestingly enough, although we have looked, you look at the faces on the board just now. There are 2 female faces there. We could actually do with more female faces there. I don't think that's a bad thing to say. And in addition to that, I'm sure we can always co-opt people onto the board, because that's been done in the past too. We don't have a right to be here forever. So there are definitely spaces for us as we pop off. Let's hope we don't pop off permanently forever, with COVID.
That's one way.
That's cheery, Sandy.
Keep it light there, Sandy.
Gene, just don't listen to him. Don't listen to him.
I've got my appointment for the 13th of February, so I'm good to go, provided we don't run out of vaccine. Anyway, we're okay. Certainly.
Andrew, get to grips with this board.
I'm sorry, but I'm like, this conversation's getting crazy.
I know. I'm phoning.
It's
Boris.
A great message, Sandy.
We're going to give your vaccine to the French, Sandy.
Oh no, not the French. Not the French.
Right, people. Yeah, I think Ali Jack's question is a good question. And I know that, Sandy, you alluded to Ali Jack. I'm Mrs. Jack, if you're watching. In no shape or form am I asking Ali to do anything more. Neither is anything else. I don't want anybody getting murdered over an SVTV broadcast.
Andrew, can I just come in and just quickly?
Yeah, you may.
For positions on the board, I maybe should have made this quite clear also. As Chief Executive, I sit on the board because of my role in the organisation. I'm not an elected member. It's just part of the structure of what we have as an organisation. But a position such as the performance director, there's robust policies and procedures in place where that would be advertised. So there would be an open recruitment policy. When there's a space, for example, Ian was co-opted onto the board as finance director because there was a mapping done between the expertise that he had and the role that was missing. And then a co-opted member is invited to come along to the board, meet the rest of the board, and then ultimately the chair of the board, which is Scott, would take that to the board for a decision whether we would like to co-opt them on for a length of period. But the performance director is a set period of time, and it was one that was to be advertised, but obviously for various reasons we've not recruited over this last year, but it is something that is still available to be done.
Good. I mean, that's great that we're still looking to try and add to that board.
Can I come in a little bit? You were talking about the recruitment. One of the things I'm not quite sure if the members have picked up on, but all the roles on the board are voluntary and non-paid. So, you know, I just, when we're talking about recruitment, it's not a job. This is in addition to your normal work, and it's a voluntary position.
Do you know, Jean, that's a great point, because we don't celebrate that enough. Everybody gives up their time and their energies and their expertise pro bono. You know, they don't, and there's nothing that comes in here. So just take note of that, the rest of my tearful board members. No payment, nothing. Board, everybody. You know that before we start, Andrew.
Paid and sausage rolls. I mean, I see no problem there. Let's have Adam Payton's got a question. We're going to bring up Adam Payton, chair of special events, and he's asked, NIVB, they had their AGM a few weeks ago. Is this something Scottish Volleyball would have at some point in the future? An AGM?
We actually we did used to run AGMs in Perth, which you may remember. We actually took the decision as a board, because there's not a legal requirement to have AGMs any longer, and we took the decision not to run a regular AGM, particularly because something we tended to find was that we tended to run the AGM in conjunction with another major event, which I think was one of the finals, wasn't it, Margaret Ann? But it tended to be quite difficult to round people up and take them away from the socialising to come and sit and suffer through an AGM. So it tended to be the same people that turned up, which meant if a decision had to be made at a meeting, it was a relatively limited number of people that were making these decisions. So we did actually change, and it was the members that decided this. We did change the constitution of the organisation so that we were not obliged to have an AGM. That's not to say that we preclude the possibility of a general meeting, which would just be, it would be formed on that basis, a general meeting. And in fact, the board were discussing that we were going to have one this past year, but obviously plans for that were shelved for good and clear reasons. So yes, I think there will be general meetings in the future when we're able to do that. And as I say, yes, it was discussed before, and it will be on the agenda again when that becomes possible.
There you go, Adam. Straight from Scott. Yes, Ian.
Just on the same subject, it's good that there appears to be interest on us having the AGM. All right, it was just one person, but I probably wasn't expecting that question, which is good, you know, from that. So that's something we have to think about seriously.
I don't think we would seek to do an online AGM if that was the question. I think my preference personally, and I would probably discuss that with the board, and we could maybe throw that out to the members, but my own preference would be to be able to meet in person. It would be something more to look forward to when we're able to, and I think that would be a very positive thing.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
Andy, I'll just finally on that also to pick up on Adam's point. This past year was a strategic consultation year. There had been dates and meetings all preset in a calendar to engage with members. But effectively, as I said earlier, we've had a furloughed year. So we've not actually completed the last year of the 4-year strategic plan. So we're looking then, therefore, to do quite a few member engagements this coming year, if possible. And we do discuss AGMs on a regular basis at the board. whether we feel it's necessary to do that. So, I mean, constitutionally, members can call for an extraordinary AGM. They can do that through the rules of the articles of the association. So if anyone's interested in that side of the governance, either contact me or have a look and then come back to me. That would be brilliant.
Good, Adam. A thorough answer there from the board from Adam. Keith, I want to come to you, fella, and I know that you've been sitting quite quietly, but in terms of your skill set, you alluded to marketing and your passion for that. We have, as our organisation, went through a whole new rebranding, and I wanted to get your thoughts on that process as a board member, and then we'll come round to everybody else because we are thoroughly delighted with it, but we want to get your perspective on that whole process and your thoughts on it, please, Keith.
Yeah, of course. So yeah, not an easy process, but a very well organized one, I have to say. Just under a year's worth of work, 10 months or so going into pulling together a new brand, a new vision, new visual vision of an organization is never easy, particularly during times like these. But certainly the board and myself were given many mock-ups of different styles of logo, different architect types of text, graphic design, which was all of such a great standard. It made our job in kind of pulling together something to represent the organization the best possible way quite challenging. What I particularly enjoyed throughout that process was the fact that the work came from a recent graduate from the University of Edinburgh, and who also played volleyball.
Yes.
So, it's that I think is so unique to hear and so wonderful to hear that such a large governing body has taken the opportunity to kind of take a recent graduate and build their visuals around their proposal, which I think is wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, we already had Megan on one of the broadcasts earlier in the year, and we were delighted to hear that she got a first class honours and that our project was merited across at the university. So we were absolutely ecstatic about the work, and obviously we're utilising it in our social media channels. What have you been thinking about our social media channels of late, Keith?
It's, well, I don't want to say it's night and day, because what was happening beforehand was wonderful, but we've come into a new age. We've come into a new age now, I feel. And I think it came at the right time as well for Scottish volleyball, because you see a lot of Scottish governing bodies, British governing bodies upscaling their identity, and you always have that fear of, is it the right time to change? Is it the right opportunity now to kind of take that leap? And I think the new brand is so visually striking. It's wonderfully abstract that it fits beautifully amongst the other governing bodies and stands out representing the sport in itself. That is portrayed across the social media channels, and know that there was an audit done to make sure that the channels were being utilized, that they were engaging members. And you can see that they are, which is brilliant. And in such a difficult time, everyone is shouting out for our attention on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, on web content, but Scottish Volleyball has kept regular content going, and it's wonderful to see on each platform.
I mean, what a fantastic answer. I don't think we could have said it any better. Thanks very much, Keith. You're well on board. Guys, Scott, let's come to you, because obviously, again, as the president, you love you're loving the work that you've seen come in terms of the rebrand and how we've utilised that.
Yeah, the rebranding was fantastic. What a positive experience it was for us. I mean, the board we didn't have to do much. We sat and listened to some very professional presentations and gave a little bit of feedback of what we thought things looked like and how it was going. And when the final design came, it was such a simple thing to do. Just yes, absolutely yes, we'll have that. The color palette was very fresh. The design is fantastic. A very dynamic design. I'm very pleased, and there's a couple of things about it that I'm particularly pleased about. When I look at branding exercises, you go to an agency for a branding exercise like this. It could cost six-figure sum to put something like this together. This was done. It was effectively a staff initiative. It was something that the board didn't drive. This came to us. This more or less fell into our laps, and I don't think it formally cost us anything at all. I think this was simply a project. It gave, as Keith said, somebody an opportunity to showcase their work, to show what they can do, and I'm so pleased that they've gained a reward from that. An additional thing that I wanted to add to that. As part of the design work with our sponsors, they put together, they mocked up a tartan for us with the particular color palette that we'd provided. Now we've secured that's Scottish Volleyball has secured the rights, the exclusive rights to that design, and we're in the process of registering that formally with the Registrar of Tartans as a tartan. So you can get your kilt made in Scottish Volleyball tartan if that's what you want to do.
Fabulous. I mean, I'm all about wearing the kilt as often as possible, and it'd be amazing if we were able to get those commissioned for us. So brilliant, Ian. Those words out of Scott's mouth there. The fact that it didn't cost us anything. Is that music to your ear?
And you've written that down because I when Scott or everybody talks, whatever, again, it goes down my mind. So I've written it down. I said, Scott, I like the word no cost. But I'll reiterate what Scott said and Keith. I thought the branding was superb, absolutely superb. And going on from a question we had earlier about the impact on volleyball and members and whatever, when we get back to kind of normalish, whatever, and when we're back to volleyball, the branding, etc., is key. I think of one of the keys to get new members. So it's up to us, as say the membership, to push it. When the time comes. But again, Keith's right. It came at the right time when every sport was at a low ebb sort of thing, and it probably put back some life into all our volleyball members sort of thing. So it's superb.
Fantastic. I want to now that Ian, you've mentioned that normal life, there's a question that's come in from, again, Adam Payton. So I'm just trying to, the questions are flooding in. Adam Payton, the board joke about the snacks at board meetings, but apart from that, what are the board most looking forward to do volleyball wise post pandemic? Jean, you can lay into Adam's question first. After this is over.
We haven't got enough time. Things like, I've really missed things like getting back into doing like the Flying Scot. We had just done our first year of that. And, that was instead of having the school games, for the juniors to get the juniors through. I think and also we've got the Commonwealth Games to try and plan for. And I know that Ben Pipes is working on the performance side for the beach athletes. We've got so much to look forward to, but I think if you're looking at grassroots, it's like, let's get the beach going, let's get grass courts going back out again, let's just get out there playing volleyball. I think I'm going to go back a little bit back to what you're saying about the redesign. It came at the right time. I'm probably a bit of a dinosaur, and probably because I've been in the association, or the old association, for a while. I was gutted when we missed the net. When the net wasn't on the board anymore. I have to say, I went back to the board going, but there's no net. How do they know it's a volleyball? But I think it came at the right time because you had the probably the time within the staff had the time to do it and to develop it because we weren't doing volleyball. I just want volleyball back on the agenda, and hopefully we can get again some European competitions. Let's get the junior Flying Scot back up. Just get out playing volleyball again.
Scott, Andy.
Yep, Ian.
Yeah, just on that subject, Jean's quite right. I'm a stone's throw from the Meadows in Edinburgh, and just from a non-volleyball person, just seeing the nets and when the weather was a bit better, seeing the nets, and it was 4 or 5 nets up at, as I say, in the Meadows, and it was brilliant to see. Whatever. So, in a way, the bug, I'd like to think, is still there with a lot of our members and whatever, and it's brilliant to see.
Yeah, we've got some real hardy members out there. Through the other commission meetings, Newmark Volleyball Club were telling us that they had a camp through Christmas 26th, 27th, 28th of December out on the Meadows. So we've got some hardy people that are year-round training. This has teed us up a nice little question from Darren Martin. Darren's with the senior men's national team, and if we can bring his question up. It's an interesting question, and I think it deserves us to have a look at. With the Commonwealth Games coming up next year, hopefully, he says, it's going to happen, Darren, we believe. What support will be there this summer for elite level players looking to qualify for the competition? If COVID restrictions are still in place, is there a possibility of exceptions for these players? Margaret Ann, I want you to come in and weed in on this one straight off the bat.
Well, sure. I mean, what we currently do, Darren, is not... It doesn't just suddenly materialise because we're 18 months away from a Commonwealth Games. We started this 3, 4, 5 years ago, actually just round about the Gold Coast, with the plans and the strategies that we've put in place. To specifically answer your question here, we have put in an application to host the Commonwealth Games double gender qualification for Europe. That's currently sitting with FIVB. And we're hopeful, fingers crossed, we'll be successful in that. That'll be in September. So that gives opportunities for homegrown players for us to put in multiple teams into an event whereby if you win that event, you qualify for for Birmingham 2022. The other things that we've put in place in the last 18 months in particular is the addition of Ben Pipes back into the team as our performance manager. And currently sitting in the staffing situation, we have Blair Pettigrew sitting in the underwriters team in the Commonwealth Games. He's working through that as well, the team manager's role. We have performance money that's been allocated. We applied for performance money 18 months, 2 years ago, and that came to fruition last year to provide pathways, better performance pathways for our beach athletes so that they could go out and tour and actually pick up world ranking points, which you need to qualify for the Commonwealth Games if you don't win the continental qualification process. All of that's up on our website. All of that, if you keep an eye on that and if you see what's happening, actually we advertise and we communicate that to members extensively, what the process is, what's available. And the exemptions you're asking about, we're currently sitting with our application in at Scottish Government now for us to get exemption so that we can be in the COVID elite performance bubbles for our beach athletes. It takes a long time to get that process approved, especially when you're not Scottish rugby or Scottish football or athletics that have got quite a substantial amount of fully paid professional athletes, where if you keep in mind our beach players are amateurs, they're not paid, and effectively that comes into consideration when the Scottish Government look at it, because effectively it's not your livelihood that's getting put on hold here, it's just your sporting excellence. But that's where we currently are. We're waiting on confirmation of the elite athlete exemption. That's been put together through Ben Pipes, who now works with us again one day a week. He's doing professional development from Sports Scotland. And our performance management group, our beach performance management group, works closely with Ben, and Ben and the rest of the team work closely with the Beach Coaches Commission. So, Coaches Commission, the Beach Commission. I've got too many commissions in my head there, Andy. So,
it's been a month of them. They
well,
can't be far away from your thoughts.
8 months. But no,
so Darren, there we've put out the link on the Scottish Volleyball website for you to click on and check out the Beach Performance Plans 2022. Margaret Ann, again, you and I know that there's a lot of work going on in the background, and these wheels tend not to move as fast as we would like them to. So Darren, I hope that gives you a little insight.
But it's interesting. Scottish Volleyball heavily influences these wheels as well. Quite a few of the staff sit in strategic planning groups within Sports Scotland, which help shape and form the strategies of these. So we influence quite considerably. For the size of our sport, we actually have quite a substantial impact and influence.
If you're in the background, can we have Ali Jack's question then? Margaret Ann, you've just segued nicely into a question that we want to start answering for Ali. He's looking at the board and saying the balance of influence on the board versus Sports Scotland and the long-term strategic planning. So, Margaret Ann, you've kind of started in on this conversation. Scott, what's your views on it? Margaret Ann seems confident that we are influencing heavily Sports Scotland.
I think as much as we can do. I think we're well liked there. We're not. I don't like to be. To suggest that we're held up as a model, but I do know that that the people on Sports Scotland are very pleased with the way that we conduct ourselves, and I do know that some of the conversations that take place do go along the lines of perhaps you could try and do things a little bit more like Scottish volleyball. So I think being known, Margaret Ann really is the major contact there, and that's important to remember. The board itself individually, perhaps Sandy, but the board itself individually, we don't have any particular strong personal contacts within Sports Scotland. So I don't know if the question is really framed exactly correctly, because what we're really talking about is an organisational relationship between Scottish Volleyball and Sports Scotland, and the part that we play in that as a board is to just be good at the governance side of things, so that our governance audits come back positive.
Yeah, I think that's a great point to make. That in terms of our organisation, we do get held up a reasonable standard at Sports Scotland on that governance front. Ali, I think Margaret Ann has put a little bit of an answer in there, and Scott's obviously alluded to some of the issues that we face as an organisation from board level versus our connection to Sports Scotland. We're coming up on that magic hour. I always ask, the conversation is flowing. We have a plethora of questions that are still on the sidelines. Is everybody okay to continue? Mm-hmm. Everybody will give it the old Zoom thumbs up if we're good to go. Keith, we all good? Ian, fabulous. Yeah. Pushing ahead. There's a question that's come in from Mark Richardson. And he says, we've lost a year of indoor volleyball for all ages. What are the plans to kickstart the sport as soon as the government gives us the green light? The players may not come back if it lasts for much longer. What's our plans to get us back, guys, as a board? What have you been discussing about getting us right back in there? Jean, you alluded to let's get out and play. Have you had some conversations about it?
Just trying to think. I know that we're talking about trying to get some of the European competitions over, but our main conversations have really at the moment been targeting the outdoor volleyball, and we are governed by what obviously Scottish Government says. So we made plans for some competitions to be starting in, as I say, September, December, January, and they got thwarted. So I'm not 100% sure where we are with sort of going ahead. We keep saying, oh, we'll start in the spring, we'll start then. So I'm going to pass it over to Margaret Ann, because she might have more of an insight of what they're planning.
Well, this is natural. It's natural for the board to pop it over to me because the strategy of the return to sport is very much being placed with the full-time professional staff, and that's the way that it should be done. Quite clearly, this COVID and this pandemic, the opportunity we had, as I said earlier, is that we will be starting quite early on, along with the Beach Commission, to actually roll out competitions. Now, we have to have a look at that sensibly in terms of the restrictions that are in place. So if we are still in lockdown, there is no return to sport. If we are then go into the tier system again, where you can travel, but it's regional, we'll do regional competitions. But this summer alone, we've bid for 3 major beach events, Small Countries event, a UK Tour beach event, and also to host the Double Gender Commonwealth Games in September. On top of that, Jerry and his commission have worked extensively at putting a calendar together, and not just a national calendar, but a regional calendar in partnership with our beach clubs and our indoor clubs. And one of the things that we've been looking to do is to build on the pop-up and play programme that Scottish Volleyball helped finance last year to get indoor clubs to use outdoor nets and get their people outdoors. So I see a very big pickup in that. Anybody listening here that's an indoor player that's desperate to play, get yourself outside, because that's the way you're going to start building up your fitness. I said earlier, and alluded to earlier, we do have top shelf programs and delivery ready to go. Competition's all ready to go. We just need the green light, and it needs to be safe for our members. It's our #1 priority. So if we say we're going to go out in September, October to start the indoor season, if clubs haven't kept their fitness level up over the next coming 6 months, you're not going to be in a position to actually rock back into the National League. So I'm going to passionately encourage anybody listening here, get yourself out on the beach, get yourself out on the grass, get those nets up there, watch out for some of the support that will be coming out from Scottish Volleyball, and get all your club outdoors and get playing.
Great message, Margaret Ann. Great message. We love it. I think we're motoring in comments, and it's crazy. What we're looking at now, guys, is I want to just look and focus on it, that some of the work that the development staff have done over this year, and some of the key projects that we've achieved on. If we look at some of the partnerships that we've brought in, we've discussed the branding. We mentioned a little bit about our partnership with Xeon. It's been a big year, Scott, in terms of projects and achievements across the staff. Would you say so?
I think absolutely, and I think although obviously what the staff want to be doing is they want to be getting out and they want to be getting events, and everybody wants to be playing. The fact is that we've not rested on our laurels, and we've seen that with other governing bodies. We've seen governing bodies more or less on the brink of collapse, with CEOs walking away because effectively they had not been planning, they hadn't been keeping their staff engaged. They furloughed everybody, and when the furlough ended, they didn't have anything for the staff to come back to. They had no projects, they had no ideas, they had no direction. But Margaret Ann made a very important decision, which the board supported, that the staff would not be furloughed in Scottish Volleyball. Things would be found for them to do, and they would find things for themselves to do. And it's been an extraordinary year in those terms. Yes, as you mentioned, the partnership with Xeon, the new sponsorship partnership, fantastic. You know, the rebranding, absolutely wonderful things that people have been given the initiative, they've been given the opportunity to actually take that step back and say, what can we achieve? What can we do that's beyond what would our normal remit be? And I think it's been extraordinary. I think it's been incredibly challenging for the staff on a personal and professional level. Yeah. But I think the fact is that so many members of staff have just stepped up, and they've worked on their own initiative. They've pushed things forward. Very, very proud of what's been achieved this year.
Yeah. And there's going to be a big key announcement come out next week. So keep an eye on your website. Also, another major project that's being pushed forward. It's being launched next week. I think that Scott absolutely hits it on the head here. Staff have challenged themselves. They've really pushed themselves out their comfort zone. I mean, bear in mind, we had Andrew had a changeover after interview into the coaching manager's job. He just started that. We went to lockdown. We've had a new regional development officer, just started his post, went to lockdown. Christine, sadly, and I miss her intensely, has left the organisation now. So we've had a reorganisation of some of the key administration jobs that Christine would normally do. Other members of staff have picked that up. So from my perspective, and I constantly say this as a board director, but also with my board, I could not be more proud of what my staff have done over the past year, but also what Scottish Volleyball has done, because we've had commissions engage, we've had members engage, and I think it goes back to that point, how will we get these people back? I think they'll come back because we've stayed connected to each other. And I really do think that we just need the sport an opportunity to get out there and play, and we'll come back in. One of the things Scott and the rest of the board I know would be really impressed with, and hopefully you, the members listening tonight, was the key achievements. Now, these are just a handful of key achievements that popped up on screen prior to us all coming onto television. But, we have the social media engagement, the new strategy in that, our partnership with SAMH, the mental health organisation, significant partnership. Very few governing bodies have that signed up. And we've also got our University West of Scotland, big project that's going on there. So there's so many things that have been delivered that are actually up and running, which the board has overseen and supervised. You don't expect anything less than me. I mean, I'm going to wax lyrical because I just love Scottish volleyball. I love being part of it. But it has been a year where the board has tremendously supported the staff, and that's been very, very much appreciated.
Indeed. One of the projects, Margaret, we have alluded to, but it's been put out on our website that will be managed effectively from the staff and the board, is the Erasmus project. That's coming at the board members. So you've been involved in some conversations about Erasmus. What do you think of that project?
Are you asking me, Andrew, or the rest of the board?
Well, anybody. What do you think about the Erasmus project coming at them? It's a governance project, so it's probably going to involve everybody at some point on the board.
Well, I'm happy because it's the last opportunity before we came out of the European Union to be involved in a Erasmus EU project, but also it does bring in it brings in finance to the association, which is always significant, and also it allows us to improve what we do as a sport and gives us a platform as a small federation in the big pool of water, which is volleyball, and it has given us we're up there with Italy, with Austria, with Poland, and we are the small country that was cherry picked to sit in there to do that in that project. And it's there's a list of achievements over the last year. Now we just need to be able to be in a position to implement them and move them forward.
Brilliant, excellent. We spoke about that some of the work that was being done, and one of the things that we were talking about was our online engagement. So we've had, this is our online engagement. It's been consistent across pandemic. Sandy, have you had a favourite engagement that you've been part of or you've watched through the staff's approach to COVID?
Well, the communications I've had with the staff have been very good. I think I said that the last time that prior to COVID hitting us, we actually had a lot of projects ready to go, and of course that stopped. Nevertheless, if you actually look at the website, we actually have some nice material that's popped up there. And I think if people actually can go in and access that, they should get a nice surprise at the level of detail and the content that's there. So I'm actually very pleased with the initiatives that the staff have done. And what we're doing this evening and what we've been doing for the last month or so has actually been a real eye-opener. And I'm delighted I'm hearing that huge numbers of people are actually tuning in to hear what we're saying from far across the world. I was really amazed at that, and I communicate a lot with people from abroad, and they're tuning in. They don't have a connection with Scottish volleyball, but they're still connecting to what we're doing at the moment. So what you guys have picked up on has matched the mood of many nations, and it's actually really up there. And congratulations!
Thanks very much, Sandy. Ali Jack's put a comment on. He's got a question for you guys, and it's in around this online environment that we're now working. Again, Scott, earlier in the broadcast, you alluded to the new norm. So, with the success of the online events, what plans are in place for further examples of online learning? Ali also sits on the Coaches Commission, so he's particularly looking at this with the alignment of the coaching qualifications through Sport Scotland and the SQA. So he's asking about online learning for our membership and what we're planning on doing. Any plans for that, Scott?
No, that's interesting. Sandy and I did talk about this some time ago, and there were some initial outline plans put together for something like that. So Sandy really is the expert on that. I think he's got his finger on the pulse of what it was that he was trying to achieve.
I'm not really an expert, but I'll pull in Jean in this one as well, because we actually have got plans to take our grade 4, for example, the courses as much as we can online, because we make the benefit from the experience that we've got at the moment, and let's just move into the future. So we can take a lot of our stuff and put it online. And the reason why I mentioned Jean was that Jean has become really our expert in scoring, both in traditional scoring and in e-scoring. And I know that we actually have had discussions and plans afoot to actually upskill as many people as possible. Would also involve Adam, because Adam from his special events position is recruiting people to take on board a lot of the line judging and so on. So we've got certainly 3 prongs to the attack. One is the scoring, one is line judging, and one is our possibility of putting our grade 4 at least part of our grade 4 courses online, so that only the practical part would actually have to be done in a games hall situation. So going back a little bit further, actually, one of the things that we talked about before was what is the core message of Scottish volleyball, and for me, it's actually getting everybody playing our league games again. And in order to get people playing indoors, obviously, once the pandemic goes, we actually have to have people with the appropriate skills to do that. If they don't do the scoring, if they don't do the theory, etc., we've wasted a lot of time. So we need to keep people interested, and that's one of the plans that we have. So keep our fingers crossed that we can do that, and with the help of people like Andy and Blair, I'm sure it will happen.
Margaret Ann, have you got something to add on to that, Sandy?
Yeah, I just want to say that's an excellent question and from Ali Jack. But actually, Ali, I hope you don't mind, but at board level, what happens is the projects come to board if there's a financial implication, or if it sits within the strategic, or it goes out with the strategic vision for the sport. The board really rely on online delivery and the programming to come through the capacity of the staff, but also of the commissions. So the answer Sandy gave there was excellent, but it was a referees commission answer, if you understand, because that's his world. So yes, the answer is yes. We do have more online planned delivery, and I think the key to this is club involvement. You really have to make sure that the clubs engage with the online delivery, and that for the return to the indoor sport in particular, clubs really need to start buying in more to some of the online delivery that's happening through the programmes that are being set out there. But Ali, I think that's a great question. The simple answer is yes, there is more planned, but it's getting organised more through the commissions. And that's a question that's been raised through all of these online commission podcasts that we've been doing this TV work. So absolutely, we plan to do more, but we would rather be out there delivering face to face.
There's a follow-up question that's came in from Bob Agnew, Robert Agnew at Renfrewshire Leisure. He's asked, is there leadership or lower level coach education awards available? These would be well received across Active Schools Network and growing interest in picking up the sport. So again, it's a similar question, Margaret Ann, in and around. Obviously, you mentioned that there was the referees sort of angle. This is coming at a coaching angle. Is there conversations happening?
One of the things, yeah, absolutely. One of the things we've just, one of our regional development officers has just piloted an online delivery to Active Schools, and it was based around this induction into the sport and how you could get it back up and running. We are very conscious of the fact that we would like to deliver more at that educational level, and we do have educational packs ready to go online for schools, but that was due to go in January, and then everything got knocked back another 3 months because of lockdown. Again, I'll go back to my statement. These are top shelf projects that all they need is a bit dusting off and sent out when we're allowed to do it. They are already there to go. Hopefully, Robert, that answers your question. Thanks for popping that in, and glad to see that you're watching with us. Brilliant. We're an hour and 17 into the broadcast. We're cruising. The comments are starting to slow down a wee bit. Sean Platt-Stobie has came back with an interesting point. It was in and around the EGM, but he's asking, is there the possibility of maybe a blended approach to meetings in the future? Again, meeting with the general meeting not be an effective way of engaging larger numbers if we were to do something like that online. So he's asked a little bit of a way of getting things on the go.
Yes, absolutely. In theory,
yep.
In theory, absolutely. I mean, my own personal feeling on that is that given that we suspended annual general meetings, I'm not entirely sure I see the advantage in running a meeting. The thing is, an annual general meeting will have a very formalized structure.
Yes.
And the truth is, if people want to engage directly with the board, they want to be able to ask questions, they would be better off asking you to set up another stream like this, Andy, because they can ask these questions directly. Annual general meetings or general meetings are there for formal company business. So it will be for passing resolutions for these kind of things, for laying the accounts. They are very formalised meetings. They are not simply a question answer session like you would have here. So certainly this kind of thing, this can be organised at very short notice, and whoever's interested can come along and pose these questions. It is worth remembering something that Margaret Ann alluded to there, that the board is ultimately responsible for strategic matters. So we're responsible for ensuring that the strategic plan is delivered. And some of the questions that we're being asked are effectively asking us what our plans are to put things into operation. But that is, in fact, Margaret Ann's remit as the CEO in charge of the staff. So there is a little bit of a blurring here between the strategic level and the operational level in terms of our overall overarching responsibility as a board. But yeah, absolutely. If people want more access with the board and they want to do it in this way, then yeah, I'm more than happy to do that. But an annual general meeting I think they would find a little bit less interactive, so that might not be as engaging for them.
I'm having fun. I don't know about you guys. I know that I'm having a good time listening to this information. I want to come back to. I mean, it kind of got skirted over, Keith, about how you were co-opted onto the board, where you were Margaret Ann convinced you. Outside of Margaret Ann convincing you to come on the board, Keith, what's the motivation for being on the board?
Oh,
Don't say sausage rolls.
that's all I can think about. It's all that's been. It's
It's
going
because
through my mind.
Sandy's mentioned it 10 times.
I know.
I know what I'm having for lunch tomorrow.
Only 9.
You know what? It's. I say this over and over again, but it's about the people and it's about the team behind Scottish Volleyball who make being part of it worthwhile. You know, the passion that comes from within is just, I don't want to say unmatched, but it's very unique. And, you know, as we've discussed this evening already, it drives the sport forward in a pandemic, even though the sport even can't be played. It's, you know, it's in a truly difficult situation with, you know, indoor sports being so restrictive, indoor group sports being even further restrictive. Facilities, if you look at universities, if you look at schools, they will have their own regulations. So the sport is going back to a difficult time, but I think it's got such a great chance to rekindle the fire that once was because of the team that's driving it. And that filters into its clubs as well. It filters into the people who are asking these questions, and it comes out in those who volunteer and those who coach and go through qualifications. There's such an ethos within the sport that I think makes it worthwhile being part of, even if you don't play it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's certainly my reasonings for staying involved.
Yeah, perfect. I mean, Keith, I know that through following your social media, you play a bit of rugby. Is that right?
I do, yes.
Yes, you do. I mean, I think we passed in the stairwell one Monday, and you had a little bit of a collision, and you had a bit of a black eye, and I was like, "What's going on there?" He's like, "Yeah, rugby." So maybe we should try and convert you into some volleyball.
I don't know. I've seen some games, and it's as tough, if not more so. Maybe less contact, but no less as vibrant.
I think we've all been hit in the head. It's not great. Jean, there's a question again. Ali Jack is asking questions like left, right, and centre, and he's directed this one to you. Although he has spelled your name wrong, we apologise for that. But I've decided that it's
told you June.
for June. You're now June, not
I
Jean.
won't answer it for 6 months then.
Until we figure out the typo. But basically, Jean, what he's saying is, as part obviously Ali's on the coaching commission, and as part of that commission, he's found it difficult to attract female members. Would you be able to provide some motivation for candidates or advice to commissions on attracting people from different backgrounds, different genders? So, big question.
Absolutely. I think that if you're actually, for me, I wanted to stay in volleyball, and I realise there's other people on the board who have not in volleyball, but I think that it's one of these positions that you can do, you can learn, you can grow. You've still got your own internal passion for your sport. Different backgrounds. You know, we do have in our policies, we're obviously trying to get people from different backgrounds onto the board. Scotland doesn't have has not as much as like England have the sort of minorities, but I would just say go for it. If you really want to do something, just say you want to do it, and there's always opportunities. I think for me, my motivation was obviously just being involved with the sport at a different level. I was already doing scoring. I was already doing special events. I had, I like being involved with the big events. And then it was just a natural progression. As Sandy says, I'm going to be heavily involved we've already looked at the online teaching and scoring. Ali Jack knows I've been along to City of Edinburgh to help sort of teach some of the scoring on their game days, just trundle along to go along. But certainly I would encourage anyone, obviously at the moment on the board, there's performance management position, but we actually can deal with anyone that wants to come on and say, and if they've got special skills, there's nothing wrong with somebody saying, Jean, I've got some HR, can I come and help you? No problem at all.
Brilliant. I mean, we're currently working through our equality action plan. Margaret Ann, you'll know that we're trying to make sure that we action those points that we've identified, and recruiting people onto our board and onto our commission is high on our agenda at the moment, would you say?
Yeah, one of the really interesting things that I've taken on board, because I've been engaged in all of the commission online for all of this month and looked at it all, is that there is certain commissions, through no lack and desire on their part, are top heavy in male gender, and we do need to look at that. And it actually dovetails really well into your equality action plan, which is currently sitting for approval to move forward into the next equality, which you need to do as part of. It's really quite tedious. You need to do it as part of your audit and your approval system as a governing body. But it's been significant. And one of the things that I will champion female participation at any level, in any position, in any sport, through no matter what. And I will champion male participation, involvement, and no matter what sport, as long as they've got the skill set that they're applying for it. There should be no barriers, whether male or female, anything to do with sexual orientation, no barriers whatsoever to you being able to be involved in your sport at what you want to do. And we strive so hard to make that pathway easier for people to take that first step. And it does come a lot from desire as well, Andrew. People who feel that there should be more diversity, they feel they're part of that diversity that's not being represented. Step forward, knock on my door, come and speak to the staff and the board, and we will support you 100%.
Can I just go back to what Ali was saying about the commissions? I think that doing this STV thing has been brilliant, because I didn't know until I came on the board, I didn't know we had so many commissions. So again, there's probably a lot of members out there that don't know what our commissions are doing. And then more recently, I've actually gone onto the referees commission, but that's because I'm passionate about the scoring. So as Margaret Ann said, if you're passionate about something and you want to be involved, hopefully now you know how many commissions there are. There's special events. I think there's probably more girls on the special events commission than there are guys. You've got the students commission, you've got the beach commission. It's fantastic. And I think it comes from your inner drive. If you want to make a difference and you want to get involved, then step up, speak, as Margaret Ann says, Margaret Ann, any of the board members or any of the commission members now that they exist.
Absolutely.
Brilliant message to be putting out there from you guys. Listen, we're getting close to an hour and a half on this call, and I mean, the conversation is great. I'm loving that we're all interacting and getting on with it. But what I want to, I'm conscious on time, and I don't want to eat into the remainder of what has been a long day for some of us. So,
all of us.
I want to try and round the conversation off. It's me politely saying I'm getting tired and I want to get myself to bed.
Yeah, because you've got that meeting in the morning, Andrew.
I know, I've got that one tomorrow, 8:30 in the morning, so I want to try and get off before I hang myself further. Listen, there's been so much great work that we've talked about tonight, and I'm going to put you on a bit of the spot here, guys. We're going to come to you just quickly each, and I want you to just say one of the things that you've looked at that we've done inside this pandemic that you think has been like a real highlight for you as a board member. So, Ian, we've not spoken to you for quite some time. Have you seen something that or something that we've done that's been stand out for you over the past 10, 11 months?
I think it's like give me the branding has, to me, has blown it. I think blown everything out of the air or the water sort of thing. I think it's been fantastic, but and that is the main thing. But you know, if we put the word positive and pandemic together in the same thing, the one thing it has, and we mentioned the Zoom. I think the Zoom or any kind of media thing has opened a lot of avenues for future training. Training is probably a perfect situation. I'm not sure about the AGM, to be honest, because it's probably the most boring event ever. But never mind. But for me, the branding has been fantastic.
Same question, Sandy.
I think it's the ability of the staff and the willingness of the staff to actually engage and work on projects, away from the office, and getting on with it. So it's highlighted for me the energy and enthusiasm of the youth, shall we say, amongst the staff.
Thanks, Sandy. I'm taking that one.
Did you like it? Margaret Ann, I included you in that as well. There you go.
I should hope so, Sandy.
Otherwise, no sausage rolls. But anyway, I mean, honestly, the staff have really worked awfully hard. We don't see what they do most of the time until we do something like this, until somebody actually reminds us. But yeah, they have been working really, really hard all the time behind the scenes, just getting things done, getting things on the shelf ready for action. So I think that's been a highlight for me. I will agree with Ian about the branding being a breath of fresh air, as it were. The tartan I didn't know about until fairly recently, so that was a new thing. But okay, we'll get around to that. And I think that could be something for me to wave at FIVB sometime in the future. We'll have a flag made from the SVA tartan, and just say
you'd certainly turn some heads. I'll tell you, if you get that film made at FIVB level, you'll turn some heads.
Certainly would. No, I think that's it. Yeah.
Jean, you're going to be next.
Okay. The thing for me that I was quite impressed with was the clarity of the guidance that the organisation was putting out to the members. This is what you can do. This is what you can't do. And when you saw like Nuvok out in the meadows with their bit of orange, and they were encouraging the juniors, but they were still within the guidelines. I think that the organisation were very proactive at putting those out really early on, made it absolutely clear what was happening. And then that's actually continued throughout the pandemic. So for me, it's been the communication of what's been happening and how we're moving forward has been really clear.
Can I say something,
go on, Ian.
Andy, on the back of what Jean said? I was going to say earlier, but there was too many people talking. I was going to say how quick this instructions came out with regard to the tiers. I thought it was superb, absolutely fantastic. Whatever, apart from it boring, actually reading it and on the whole thing, it was absolutely superb. How early it came out, and I thought it was great. Sorry, that was me.
That's great to hear. I'm sure Lynn Beattie sitting watching that. She done an absolute power of work on it, and she moved real quick on it. So Ian, it's great to hear that you guys appreciated that. Keith, I know that you were looking like Jean had stole your sweeties, but
sorry.
It's one at a time. Each of them was like, yep, that was going to be mine.
I mean, it's okay to say the same thing as Jean. Any highlights for you?
I think what I've taken away from this year is how innovative Scottish volleyball has been, and what a breath of fresh air it has been to be part of and also see such a breadth of work going on. I think from a background, working behind the scenes of things we don't even think of, taking the website, upscaling that, it is now mobile friendly.
Yes.
Things like that I think go quite easily unnoticed. That's quite a big thing to be entering into that world in this age. Going from that to sharing club content as much as we can, because we're trying to encourage clubs to be engaged, which Scottish Volleyball are doing, to then creating partnerships and working in Erasmus and taking it to the world stage. You know, it's covering so many different areas and so many different projects, which has just been delightful to be able to view and to be a part of, even just for a little bit. So the innovative nature is what I'm going to go with as my answer.
Bravo! What a way to sum it up. Now, I was going to ask Margaret Ann this question, but I'm in two minds, because I know that you're going to have to pick out and single out one of your favourite moments, which might be difficult for you.
You're absolutely going to be amazed by this, Andrew.
Come on,
this
then.
is going to take 30 seconds. The thing that has overwhelmingly impressed me in the past year is that in this period of change, that we have had the ability to change and change well.
Fabulous.
All right.
Well, Scott, we're coming to you. I've got that. I want you to do two things for me. I want you to give me your highlight, and then just a final word in terms of what you feel might be in store for the board in the future, coming months, coming years, etc. So a highlight, and then a little bit of what your vision is.
Okay, well,
forward.
Much like Margaret Ann, I don't want to single out anything. The thing overall that has impressed me is the simple fact that we're still here. You know, so much has changed, but we're still here. We've shown such extraordinary resilience and adaptability to find ways to not just be productive, but to remain relevant to the members, to actually give people something to cling on to, something to look forward to. You know, the fact is that we have remained one of the rocks that people have in a very turbulent situation. I remember a couple of years ago working through the disaster recovery planning, and when we were going to have a test for it, and we were going to run the office from Margaret Ann's kitchen table, and we all laughed about it. We all laughed about it because it seemed so ridiculous, and now that's exactly what we're doing.
Welcome to my kitchen table.
Yeah, we ran through that as an exercise, thinking that it was simply something that we might have to one day deal with, and we thought it would be maybe some kind of flood in the building or something, something temporary that you would run for a couple of days. But the truth of the matter is that plan was always in place, and it was revisited, and it was ready to go. But the most extraordinary thing really has been that, despite the fact not all the staff members that were in place at that time are still here, and new people have come along, everybody's just adapted to that. And they've just accepted that this is currently where we are, and that's what we have to deal with right now. Now, in terms of the future, yes, obviously, I'd like to see us returning safely to playing sport again. I would like to see everything returning as much as possible to normal. But I think more than anything, I would like for us to return to this with everybody still here. I would far rather we spent another year doing this and everybody come back safely than say, let's get out and let's get into halls and let's do this and let's do that and put people at risk. So that's my hope for the future, is that people do heed the warnings and they do understand how important it is to stay safe out there. I think that's what I would like to sum up with. It's just, be patient. We will be back.
What a strong sentence to finish on, Scott. We will be back. Listen, and it's an hour and 40 minutes of captivating conversation. We've had a massive amount of engagement. And normally at this point, I would flash up a closing message from our CEO. But she's not done it this evening. So I'm like, where's our closing statement, guys?
I'd just like to say a big thank you to my board. Without the board, we are nothing here in Scottish Volleyball. So thank you very much. Will that do, Andrew?
That,
Thank you.
do you know what? It's short and sweet, and it covers exactly everything that needs to be said. Guys, we really appreciate the work that you guys do as volunteers, which this month has all been about shedding that spotlight on the individual contributions. We're starting to get there's Julie Lee, serial watcher. Hi, Julie. Thanks for that. She says it's a great session, fantastic insight, and keep up the good work. It's great when our members are actually watching right to the dying death. And they're putting that up. There's again Dave Monroe saying, "Well done, everybody." Dave, a life member, thanks for watching and sticking it out the long haul for us, guys. What we're going to do is we're going to wrap this up. So, we
yeah, Mr. Sandy, number one.
Oh dear,
Money passed.
Right, so, I think we've all enjoyed the evening. I hope that your debut on SVTV wasn't too bad. We would love to have you back on in conversation later on, because as we've alluded to, we're going to try to continue this sort of engagement with our members. So fantastic night. What's going to happen now, folks, is by the magic of TV, you're going to disappear backstage and you'll be with Blair, and I'll wrap up the show and join you for a quick chat afterwards. So for me, Andy Fleming, to the board, thank you so much for all you do, and thank you for your contribution this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Thanks, Andy.
What an amazing night. Hour and 41 minutes conversation with the board. It's been a truly insightful evening. Lots of conversations, topics covered, some answers to some pretty tricky questions. And to the viewers who are watching, thank you very much for your contribution this evening. We do try to answer as many questions as possible. If you are watching live and you've commented, great. If you are watching again on a replay, pop a wee comment on the social media feed so that we can understand how you're viewing this this chat. That's us. We come at the end of January's engagement, and if you've enjoyed what we've been doing here over the past month, then fear not. We have more engagement planned for February. What's going to happen is the team are going to get a plan in terms of the next sessions that we're going to have online, and there's going to be a theme around that. So there will be a social media announcement when we get into February. So keep your evenings free, and I look forward to being back on the screens with you with SVTV and some more amazing content from Scottish Volleyball. So from me, Andy Fleming, to you, good night. Thank you.